St. Mary's. They took 5. It's down to 4.5. Public loves Villanova, not surprisingly, laying only 4.5, considering how they've been the last few years. So that one really stands out to me.
Yeah, is that a real sharp side? Is that a pros versus Joes game? Because I don't know that there's a lot of them, but that one looks like one.
Yeah, there are not a lot of them, but that is one of them with the Public on Nova and St. Mary's getting the sharp action.
Well, let's go to the Friday games. We've got 16 games to run through here. We'll just take them in the order of the rotation. So these aren't in time order. They're in schedule rotation order. And you can tell us what's happening so far and what you anticipate. And we'll begin with what should be a blowout, but the spread evens that out, as you've got North Dakota State, which basically has no chance against Duke. The problem is Duke knows that, and you're laying a ton of points if you want Duke here.
Yeah, I think and for that reason, this game's not going to be heavily bet. I mean, no one really wants to bet against Duke, but nobody really likes laying 27.5. No sharp action on this game, really. We've taken a few more bets on the dog, but I don't really expect this to be a high-volume game for us, considering that Duke's going to win. It's just a matter of, do they win by 25 or do they win by 28?
All right, the next game up on the schedule rotation, Central Florida and Virginia Commonwealth. Where's the money coming in this one? You got the smaller conference. I thought one of the better conferences for being a mid-major, the American Conference, Central Florida. Where's the money?
Central Florida's gotten a little bit of the action early on. We were at pick for a while here, and now Central Florida is a 1-point favorite. The public is backing Central Florida slightly more than VCU. Not a ton, though, so they're not really sure what to do in this game, but certainly a coin flip game. Early sharp money on Central Florida, though.
So we have Virginia, and this is really interesting because Virginia, in a sense, has more pressure on them than any other team in the tournament because they lost as a 1 seed outright last year, and you wonder, is that going to be in their heads? Or are they going to come out just on fire and destroy Gardner-Webb? What's happening at the betting windows?
Makes you wonder, yeah, I think so. There's a lot of pressure on them. Virginia's laying 22 here. It was 24 to open, so it has come down slightly. We've seen pretty much even ticket count here. There is a lot of action, though, on the under, which is 130.5. And when the total is that low at 130.5, and it came down from 131.5 down to 130.5, when a total is that low, it's very hard to win by over 20 points, so keep that in mind.
The next one up is Oklahoma and Mississippi, and the good thing about this one is one of these teams are going to be out of the tournament because I don't think either one of them deserved, especially Oklahoma, didn't deserve to be in the tournament.
Ole Miss did.
Ole Miss, yeah, from there. But Oklahoma, you're 7-11 in your conference.
I don't know about you, Jason, but I'm one of those who believes they ought to put a rule in that if you're not 500 or better in your conference, you don't get to go.
Or make all those teams play in the play-in game. Like, why do we need the 16 teams in the play-in game?
That's okay with me too.
But yeah, I think this spot is another game where none of these teams are really too exciting. There's no small conference team like a Murray State or a Belmont for the public to get behind. It's just one of these kind of two big conference teams that are both pretty both equally slightly above average. That Ole Miss just happens to be laying -1.5. In this game. There really isn't much line movement here. It was 2 for a tiny bit, and it's come down to 1.5. Pretty even. There's only one ticket separating both these teams. We've written one more ticket on Oklahoma, so a real coin flip here.
Well, the next game won't be, at least from a ticket count. I am quite confident you will get way more tickets on Cincinnati than Iowa. But that might not be the case as far as the money is concerned. I know Iowa has not been attractive down the stretch in terms of the way they've played, but I think there's going to be some support here for Big Ten against the American Athletic Conference.
This is another pros versus Joes that we've touched on. The public loves Cincinnati. The ticket count is more than 2x on the Bearcats in this one, but we've taken sharp bets on Iowa. In fact, even though the tickets are 2 times more on Cincinnati, we've taken more money on Iowa. The sharp guys took 4 with the Hawkeyes. It went back down to 3.5 for a little bit. It's back to 4. So this game has been bounced between 3.5 and 4, but certainly a pros versus Joes one here. And again, the public loves dogs, but they don't love dogs when they're Big Ten teams.
Now, an interesting question here. Is this just going to be a game that just continues to sit at 3.5 or 4? Or could this be one of those games where the public comes in really late, which they have a tendency to do sometimes? They'll bet right up until game time and drives this to 4.5.
Yeah, I mean, being that this game is early in the morning, it's the 9:15 a.m. tip, you figure that the public is going to bet this one late tonight and early tomorrow morning. before they bet their other games. But we know that they're sharp guys who are going to take 4. So I certainly think that they'll take 4.5. So, this might be the situation where even though you want to go to 4.5, because the sharps like Iowa so much, you might just have to sit with the decision.
Next one up, you've got Colgate at Tennessee. Tennessee, one of the best teams in the country all year long. They lose the championship game in the SEC. How's the money going on this one?
This one is pretty even on the spread. The number's been 17.5 or 18. This doesn't figure to be a close game. It doesn't really have any real steam on it at all. With the exception of the total, which I think is worth mentioning, it right now sits at 148.5. It was as high as 151, so it's moved about 3 points already. Way more bets on the under, so look for this to be more of kind of a slugfest than a shootout.
Dogs are now officially 5-0 because the Bradley game has gone final. Michigan State did pull away to a 76-65 victory, but easy money for Bradley backers in that one. We look at the next game, and this could be. I'm not a big favorite guy, but boy, I'm tempted here because this game is going to be played at a frantic pace, and that's not good for Iona against North Carolina.
No, it is not good for Iona against North Carolina. North Carolina is one of those teams that always seems to kind of dominate in their first round game. I think that this one has a chance to be very, very ugly. This is another one where the total is gigantic, 166.5. So this certainly should be more high scoring. In terms of the spread, the line right now is 23.5. It was as high as 24.5, so it has come down slightly. But, again, this is kind of more of does Iona lose by 25 or do they only lose by 18 and cover?
Next one up, you've got Washington and Utah State. Both of these teams were showcased here in Vegas last weekend. One didn't look good in the championship game, and the other one did. Utah State winning the Mountain West Conference. Where's the money going in this one?
This one is pretty evenly bet. In fact, we kind of have a black number to both teams right now, which is a good spot for us to be in. There's only, as I count, 8 tickets. That's it, that separate the amount of bets between these two teams. So that's relatively even there. There's a slight bit more money on Washington than Utah State, but not really that much. The number was 2.5 with Utah State. It got bet up to as high as 3.5 and came down to 3. So basically, you've got people laying 2.5 with Utah State, taking 3.5 with Washington, which is why it's 3.
Let's go to the Ohio State-Iowa State matchup, and the Cyclones should be attractive to bettors coming out of a terrific weekend at the Big 12 tournament.
This is a perfect example of what I was talking about before, where it's really funny. The public loves dogs. And the only times that they're actually laying with the favorite are when the dog is a big conference team. This is one where the public is all over Iowa State. Over 2 times more bets on Iowa State. The money is slightly more on Iowa State. We have taken a few sharp bets on Ohio State plus the 6. But Iowa State is one of the bigger public plays of the entire day. Might end up being the biggest public play of the entire day.
You've got Houston and Georgia State. Houston losing in the championship game. They should be coming to play today.
This game is, I thought that there was going to be a lot more action from the public on Houston. They have backed Houston more so than Georgia State, but not by a lot. Maybe they were remembering kind of what happened last year. But certainly looks to be a little more evenly bet than I expected. We were going to need Georgia State in this one, but not for as much as I initially had thought.
The mid-major is going to get the money here, at least in terms of the betting. Arizona State and Buffalo. Arizona State didn't impress anybody last night. Buffalo's a scary good team. It's an intriguing matchup from the standpoint of, we talked about this a little earlier. Arizona State's on a free roll at this point to me. I mean, they were terrible last night. They were just better than St. John's, that's all. Those teams can get dangerous.
I am so surprised at this game. You mentioned it, Dave. That was just basically like watching 2 ugly teams play each other, and the one that was slightly less ugly got the W. As soon as we opened this morning, we took a max bet on Arizona State. I don't see it. I don't really understand it, but that's what happened. So we actually need Buffalo here. The ticket count is in favor of Buffalo by about 1.4x. So I do think that we're going to end up needing Arizona State for the game, but there are at least some people out there that liked what they saw from the Sun Devils.
Northern Kentucky tries to go up against Texas Tech, who should be in an angry mood after their early exit in the Big 12 conference tournament.
Yeah, this one has actually, we've seen, I think people have a bad taste in their mouth maybe from what they saw with Tech, because we've seen a bit of a move here on Northern Kentucky. They're a 13-point dog right now. They were a 14.5-point dog when we opened these lines a few days back. So clearly people are remembering that. we've taken a fair bit of Northern Kentucky money line action as well. They're at 8-1 there, so people are looking for the big-time upset in that one.
Lipscomb was a team that people thought might be a real dangerous opening round play in the NCAA tournament. Well, they got knocked off in their own tournament by Liberty. And now Liberty is a team that, well, looks like they're piquing some people's interest as an upset possibility against Mississippi State.
Oh, yeah, big time. 8.5 was the opener. Liberty's down to only a 7-point dog. We've seen close to 2 times more bets on Liberty, 6 times more money on Liberty. Liberty plus 250 on the money line is extremely popularly bet. Liberty money line is in a ton of parlays. This is a dog that people are really backing. It's kind of like with Yale today. Everybody loves this dog. So I certainly are sure that the book's going to need the favorite in that one.
Speaking of favorites, you've got a double-digit favorite with Virginia Tech as they play St. Louis. St. Louis, a surprise winner in their conference tournament. Going to be a low-scoring game in this one, but you got a big number.
Yeah, big number here. And again, we talked about it before. Not the easiest thing to do to lay 11-12 and win and have the total be under 126. So keep that in mind if you're betting this one. But Vatech is a 10.5-point spread. The numbers bounced around between 10 and 11. Solid favor here. This is not a dog that people have been really invested in with St. Louis. Not as much action on them as some of the other dogs we've talked about before, like Northern Kentucky or Liberty.
Oregon and Wisconsin, another fascinating betting dynamic because as much as we've all been ragging on the Pac-12 this season, the hot team coming in is Oregon. I mean, they played brilliant basketball last week. Wisconsin has not looked good down the stretch. This is one of those games where the power ratings, if you're going on the power ratings, you got to bet Wisconsin. But if you're looking at other things, the intangibles, the coaching, boy, you can make a case for Oregon, can't you?
Yeah, you certainly can. And what I find interesting about this game from just a popularity standpoint, this is, as of now, the most bet game of the day for tomorrow so far in terms of the handle and the number of bets. People really, really have strong opinions about this game, and they have strong opinions about this game both ways. Right now, Wisconsin is a small favorite of 2. We actually opened it at 2. It came down to pick pretty much right away, and since then they've laid pick and laid 1 and 1.5 with Wisconsin. So it ended up getting bet all the way back up to 2, which is where it opened. But right now, if the game were to start, we would need Wisconsin. But the 2A action has been pretty good. The ticket count, however, really favors Oregon. The public likes Oregon after watching what they did in the Big 12. You want to talk about a low-scoring game, though. 116.5 is the total here.
Moving to the last one for Friday, Cal Irvine in Kansas State. Kansas State without their big player, Wade. How's the action going on this one?
This one is all Irvine. They're a very, very public-y dog, just like a few we've talked about before. They're only a 4.5-point dog. They opened 6.5. Some of that is steam from people betting it. Some of that is going to be Wade's injury. But you certainly have a scenario where they're going to love the dog here. K-State had a decent run in the tournament last year, but people don't seem to care about that at the window. They're all over Irvine in this one.
All right. Let's talk about some other good stuff. Look, you guys have props up. If you got the mobile account, just get on the screen and start enjoying the menu. You'll be licking your chops, and it's so easy to make the plays. And if you're looking for great places to watch them, tell them about that, Jason.
Yeah, certainly recommend getting down to the Cosmo. You can still buy tickets for tomorrow or Saturday. They sell single days. Those are certainly open because it's going to be pretty difficult to get a seat in one of the books. You can definitely hang out in the book if you don't mind standing and having a couple drinks while you're upright. But I certainly would recommend checking out the Cosmo Hoops and Hops party tomorrow and Saturday. They have single-day tickets for both of them. Also, if you can get down to the book, I would recommend doing it a little bit later in the evening when it slows down to sign up for an account. That would be really cool because we're running that promotion still where if you sign up, you get $68 into your account. So I think those are both pretty good options for betting this weekend.
And we always like to remind visitors who are in from out of state that you don't have to be a Nevada resident to open an account. As long as you're in the state of Nevada, you're considered a resident as far as betting purposes are concerned. So, you just open your account, and then when you're ready to go back home to wherever you come from, just cash it out.
Exactly right. And then you don't have to deal with the lines. You can bet in-game, and you can bet a lot of the props. And I'll tell you guys what, we're offering first team to 20 points.
Oh, those are popular.
They're popular, and it basically comes out to half of the first half. So about 10 minutes in is when these teams typically hit 20. And a lot of times we need that decision for more than the game. Go figure.
And that's one where the public loves to bet the dogs because the dog's going to come out firing.
Yeah, when the first to 20 hit in the Yale LSU game.